You're standing in your kitchen, staring at your phone, and your banking app is open to a number you haven't seen before. $9,847. You're $153 away from your goal. $10,000. The emergency fund you've been building for 14 months. The safety net that was supposed to make you feel free. And you feel nothing. Or worse than nothing, you feel anxious, restless, like the air in the room got thinner. Your thumb hovers over the transfer button. There's a guitar you've been eyeing. Or maybe it's a weekend trip with friends. Something. Anything. You've been so good for so long, and now, right at the finish line, your brain is screaming at you to spend it. All of it. Right now. Here's the thing. You're not broken, you're not lazy, you're not bad with money. You're experiencing something researchers call the 90% gravity, a psychological phenomenon where the closer you get to a meaningful goal, the stronger the invisible force pulling you away from it becomes. And if you don't understand what's happening inside your skull right now, you're going to sabotage yourself, not because you want to, but because your brain is protecting you from a threat it can't name. Let me show you the math, then I'll show you the trap, then I'll show you how to escape. Meet Marcus. Marcus is 34, works in operations at a logistics company in Cleveland, makes $68,000 a year. In January 2024, Marcus decided he was done living paycheck to paycheck. He set a goal, $15,000 in emergency savings. That's roughly 6 months of expenses. He automated 400 hours every 2 weeks into a high-yield savings account. By December 2024, he had 12,800 FUVI. 85% of the way there, and that's when Marcus bought the truck. Not just any truck, a 2022 Ford F-150. $42,000. He put $8,000 down, his emergency fund, and financed the rest at 7. 2% APR. His payment? $772 a month. The average new car payment in late 2025, according to Edmunds data. Marcus told himself he needed it for winter. He told himself he deserved it after being so disciplined. He told himself he'd rebuild the emergency fund faster this time. It's February 2026. Marcus has $400 in savings and $34,000 left on his truck loan. The transmission is making a noise. He's sweating through his shirt at 2 a.m., wondering how he'll cover a 1,200 rep repair. Here's the brutal math Marcus didn't calculate. That $8,000 he spent? If he'd left it in his savings and kept contributing his $400 bi-weekly, he'd have crossed his $15,000 finish line by March 2025. Then, if he'd redirected that same $400 into an index fund averaging 10% annual returns, he'd have approximately $23,400 by February 2026. Instead, he has negative equity in a depreciating asset and a panic attack every time the check engine light flickers. But Marcus isn't stupid. Marcus is human. And humans have a fatal flaw when it comes to long-term goals. We mistake the finish line for a cliff. The psychology here is ancient. Your brain evolved over millions of years to prioritize immediate survival over abstract future rewards. When you're 90% toward a savings goal, your subconscious doesn't celebrate. It panics. Because completion means change. And change, to the part of your brain still running caveman software, equals danger. Researchers at the University of Delaware found that about 90% of people abandon their New Year's resolutions within the first few weeks. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is what happens to the 10% who make it further. Studies on goal gradient theory show that motivation actually increases as we approach a goal until we hit about 80 to 90% completion. Then something flips. Procrastination spikes. Self-sabotage emerges. We stall, we spend, we derail ourselves precisely when victory is closest. It's not fatigue. It's not laziness. It's fear. Fear of what comes after. Fear of the void. Fear of becoming the person who actually has their shit together, because that person has to maintain it. That person has to keep performing. That person can't hide behind "I'm working on it" anymore. And your brain would rather stay in the familiar discomfort of almost there than risk the unknown territory of actually there. The Federal Reserve data from late 2025 shows the average American household carries $7,886 in credit card debt, with interest rates hovering around 22.83% for accounts accruing interest. Meanwhile, the personal savings rate has been declining. People are making decent money, Median household income hit roughly $74 billion in Q2 2025. Meanwhile, the personal savings rate has been declining. People are making more than ever. Median household income hit $80,610 in 2024, but they're saving less. Why? Because we're all running on hedonic treadmills and the speed just got cranked up. Let me show you the invisible math of right before the finish line spending. Let's say you're like Sarah, a 29-year-old marketing manager in Austin. Sarah saved $8,500 toward a $10,000 emergency fund over 18 months. She was so close. Then she saw a limited time deal on a Peloton bike, $1,445. She told herself it was an investment in her health. She told herself she'd pay it back over 3 months. She didn't. She carried the balance on her credit card at 24.19% APR, the average for new credit card offers in late 2025. By the time she paid it off 9 months later, she'd paid $287 in interest. But that's not the real cost. The real cost is what that $1,445 would have become. If Sarah had invested that $1,445 in a total stock market index fund and left it alone for 30 years, assuming historical average returns of 10% annually, she'd have $25,180. That's not a typo. $25,000. For a bike that became a clothes hanger by month 4. But wait, it gets worse. Because Sarah didn't just lose the future value of that money, she lost the psychological momentum. She proved to herself that her goals were negotiable, that emergencies included things I want but haven't budgeted for. She reset her financial clock back to zero, and the second time around, the motivation never quite returned. It's February 2026, and she's back to living paycheck to paycheck, telling herself she'll start fresh next month. The 90% gravity got her, and it's getting millions of people just like her. Here's where it gets systemic. This isn't just individual psychology. This is engineered. The entire consumer economy is designed to hit you right at this vulnerable moment. You've been good, you've been disciplined, you've been saying no to yourself for months, maybe years. And then, right when you're about to achieve the financial stability that would make you immune to their marketing, the algorithms kick in. Your Instagram feed fills with ads for luxury vacations. Your email blows up with "you've earned this" financing offers for furniture and electronics. Buy now, pay later apps like Klarna and Afterpay, whose usage exploded 45% year over year in 2025, are specifically designed to trigger this exact moment of weakness. They know. They know you're close to freedom, and freedom means they lose a customer. The average American now has 3.8 BNPL loans active at any given time, according to 2025 consumer finance data. And the default rates? Climbing, because these products aren't designed to help you buy things. They're designed to help you sabotage yourself at the finish line. Credit card companies are even more sophisticated. They monitor your spending patterns, and when they detect you've been paying down balances, getting close to financial freedom, they unleash what industry insiders call retention campaigns. Suddenly, you're pre-approved for a $10,000 limit increase. Suddenly, you're getting offers for 0% balance transfers that revert to 29.99% APR after 6 months. They know about the 90% gravity. They've studied it. They've monetized it. Your brain thinks it's protecting you from success. These companies know better. They're protecting their revenue from your success. But why? Why does our psychology work this way? Dr. Charles Chaffin, co-founder of the Financial Psychology Institute, calls it identity foreclosure. When you set a financial goal, you're not just saving money. You're becoming a different person. A saver, an investor, someone who has options. And your current identity, the one that's comfortable, predictable, known, fights back. It fights back hardest when the change is imminent. It's the same mechanism that causes people to gain weight right before hitting their goal weight on a diet. The same mechanism that causes students to party the weekend before finals after months of studying. The same mechanism that causes engaged couples to have massive blowout fights the week before the wedding. Your brain is trying to keep you safe by keeping you the same. And it will manufacture any justification: "I deserve this. I'll start over tomorrow." This is actually a need, not a want, to maintain the status quo. The scarcity mindset makes this worse. Research from 2025 shows that 62% of households globally report financial stress, and that stress creates tunnel vision. When you've been living with financial anxiety, achieving your goal doesn't feel like winning. It feels like losing your excuse. If you're not struggling, who are you? If you're not the person who's bad with money, what identity replaces that? The void is terrifying. So you spend, you sabotage, you stay in the familiar pain because the unfamiliar piece feels like a threat. Let me show you the escape route. And I need you to understand this isn't about willpower. Willpower fails. Studies show that motivation naturally declines over time, what researchers call motivational decay. You can't fight the 90% gravity with brute force. You have to be smarter than your own brain. First, you need to recognize the danger zone. When you hit 80% of your goal, that's not the home stretch. That's where the trap is set. You need to implement what psychologists call implementation intentions, specific if-then plans that bypass your decision-making when you're vulnerable. Here's the script. If I feel the urge to make a large purchase within 2 months of hitting my savings goal, then I will wait 72 hours and call my accountability partner before proceeding. Not, I'll try to be good. Not, I'll think about it, a pre-decided protocol. Research shows this simple strategy increases follow-through by up to 300%. Second, you need to reframe the finish line. Your $10,000 emergency fund isn't a destination. It's a toll booth. Once you pass it, you don't stop. You redirect. The $400 a month you've been saving doesn't get freed up for spending. It gets redirected to investments, to debt payoff, to the next goal. The person who hits $10,000 and starts spending is the person who loses. The person who hits $10,000 and keeps the automated transfer running, but now into a brokerage account is the person who wins. Third, you need to name the fear. When you feel that restlessness, that urge to blow it all right at the end, ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of? Is it the responsibility of having money? Is it the identity shift? Is it fear that I'll fail anyway, so I might as well fail on my own terms? Name it. Write it down. The act of articulating the fear reduces its power by 40 to 60%, according to emotional regulation research. Fourth, build in a release valve. The 90% gravity is strongest when you feel deprived. So don't deprive yourself completely. Build a celebration budget into your goal, maybe 5% of the total. When you hit $9,500 of your $10,000 goal, you get to spend $250 on something completely frivolous. Not $2,500, not whatever I want, a pre-planned, budgeted release that acknowledges your effort without derailing your progress. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Meet the Chen family. David and Lisa, both 38, 2 kids, household income $125,000 in Denver. They were $2,000 away from their $20,000 emergency fund in October 2025. That's when David started getting obsessed with upgrading their kitchen. Not needed repairs. An upgrade. Quartz countertops, a farmhouse sink. The whole Pinterest aesthetic. He'd been so good for 2 years. Automated transfers. No vacations, beans and rice, metaphorically speaking. And now with the finish line in sight, he was spending 3 hours a night looking at cabinet hardware. Lisa caught it, not because she's magic, but because they'd read about the 90% gravity. They had a plan. When they hit 80% of their goal, they'd agreed. No discretionary purchases over $200 without a 7-day waiting period and a joint discussion. David wanted to rage against this constraint. He felt infantilized. He felt like he deserved to make this decision unilaterally after being so disciplined. But he waited 7 days, and on day 3 he realized something. He didn't want the kitchen. He wanted the feeling of being done. He wanted the relief of completion, and his brain had confused buying something with achieving something. The kitchen was a proxy for the emotional release he was craving. They hit their $20,000 goal in December 2025. They took $500, 2.5% of their total, and had an absurdly nice dinner with the kids. Then they redirected their $800 monthly savings rate into David's 401k and a $529 plan. Today, they have $24,000 in emergency savings and $8,000 in investment accounts. The kitchen still has laminate counters. Nobody cares. The math is brutal, and it doesn't care about your feelings. If you're 90% of the way to a $10,000 goal and you blow $3,000 on celebration spending, you didn't just lose $3,000. You lost the compound interest on that $3,000 over the next 30 years, approximately $52,000. You lost the psychological momentum that carries you into the next goal. You lost the identity of someone who finishes what they start, but more importantly, you prove to yourself that your goals are negotiable. And once that seal is broken, it's broken. The next goal gets sabotaged at 70%, then 50%. Then you stop setting goals altogether because I always mess it up right at the end. The 90% gravity is real. It's documented. It's predictable, and that means it can be defeated not by being stronger, but by being smarter. By knowing that the danger zone isn't at the beginning, when you're motivated and fresh. The danger zone is at the end, when you're tired and the finish line feels like a threat. Your brain is trying to protect you from change. Thank it for its service, then ignore it. Set up the automated transfer to continue past your goal. Build in the waiting periods. Name the fear. And when you feel that urge to spend it all right before you make it, recognize it for what it is, not a desire for something new, but a fear of becoming someone new. The person you become when you hit that goal is worth the discomfort of getting there. The safety, the options, the peace of mind, that's not a cliff. That's solid ground. Step onto it.